Welcome to Menu Planning Part 5, Checking Your Menu. So this is the last part of the series of menu planning activities, and this is where we bring it all together. So the objectives of this session are to assess your menu using the nutrition checklist provided. You'll need 2 weeks worth of menus, or I do have an example menu available for you on the website to use. However, before we start assessing the 2 weeks worth of menus, we do need to have a look at the serve sizes per day. So we need to assess each day one at a time to make sure that the adequate food serves are given to the children every day. Now this is a template that's also available for you to download from the website. So this is just a reminder of how many serves per day from each food group the child requires whilst they're at childcare, and I will provide this on the website for you to download as well. So here's an example that I've done, and this is looking at morning tea, lunch and afternoon tea. So you can see they've had a date loaf with a drink of milk for morning tea, Italian meatballs and dumplings for lunch, and they've had a banana muffin with a small piece of fruit for their afternoon tea. And it's already been calculated what the serve sizes for each of the food groups are, so we just need to break that down into the 3 meals to show our total. So in terms of fruit, we've got 3/4 of a serve of fruit, and this would have come from the date loaf and the muffins. That's exceeded the half a serve that children are supposed to have a day. The vegetables came from the lunchtime meal, and that's 1 serve, which meets the requirements. Cereals, that would have been spread across the 3 meals of the day, with the flour in the date loaf and the muffins, and the meatballs are served with dumplings. So they've got the 2 required serves of cereals. With the dairy, they had milk as a drink. There's also milk in both the date loaf and the banana muffins, and there is cheese in the Italian meatballs as well. So they've actually achieved 2.5 servings of dairy on that particular day. With regards to the meat, or meat alternatives, the meatballs are made with mince, so that's the bulk of the meat, but there is egg, which is obviously a meat alternative in the date loaf and banana muffins, so that's how we come to the 1.4 serves there. In terms of fat, yes, there was fat used in the muffins and the loaves, and the meatballs would have been cooked with a little oil, so we have actually achieved the required serve of 1.5 serves in the fat group. Okay, so this is our nutrition checklist that we're going to be using. This will help you ensure that your menus are varied and that they include the foods needed to meet the nutritional requirements of the children at your centre. This checklist is available in the Nourish Cookbook, and it's also available to download from the website. So let's work through and see what we need to be ticking off here. So with the red meat, we need to offer red meat dishes at least 4 times a fortnight. We need to offer pork or white meat, so chicken, fish or veal, 3 times a fortnight. Vegetarian meals need to be offered twice a fortnight, and they should always be based on a protein-rich food such as eggs, soy or legumes. When we are offering white meat and vegetarian dishes, we also need to make sure that there is a food rich in iron included with that meal, so something like wholemeal bread, broccoli, cabbage, legumes. And when we're offering vegetarian meals, we need to make sure that there is a good source of vitamin C, as this aids the absorption of iron. So good sources of vitamin C might be kiwi, zucchini or tomato. High-fat foods need to be limited to no more than twice a fortnight, and this includes things like hot chips, nuggets, sausages, pastries, pies, ice cream and processed meats. So remember, only twice a week for those. So on the second page of the nutrition checklist, we've got associated food items, and these are our vegetables. So we need to make sure that children have 1 serve of veggies a day, half a serve of fruit, 2 serves of dairy or alternatives, 2 serves of grainy foods, and these need to include high fibre varieties at least 4 times a fortnight. And then we need to make sure that snacks are planned on the menu and that they're included in the food serves. They should be nutritious and they should contain limited amounts of salt and sugar, and you could include dairy, fruit, veggies, or breads and low-fat crackers, that sort of thing. So let's have a look at an example. I've done a sample menu up here for you which you can practice with, and you can print this off from the website. So you can see that the serves for the food groups per day have already been calculated for you in the bottom row there. So just pause the presentation and take 10 minutes to transfer the information from this sample menu over to the nutrition checklist, and then we'll go through the answers together and see what we've come up with. Okay, so let's have a look at the nutrition checklist for that sample menu that I provided for you. So when we have a look at the red meat, there were no red meat dishes served over the course of the fortnight, so that's something we'd need to be revising. With the white meat, there were some fish and chicken dishes, so they most certainly have met that category. There were 2 vegetarian meals served, and they were based on either eggs or legumes, so we can tick those boxes off. Now, in terms of increasing iron, there wasn't really enough information to see what the meals were served with, so we can't really say that the iron was increased, and the same applies for the vitamin C and the vegetarian dishes. So that's something we would need to look into a bit further. Now, the high fat foods, the children were served sausages one day and they had ham in a sandwich the next week, so that really should be the limit for that type of food. Now, when we look at the second page of the checklist, we can see with the vegetables, they only met their 1 serve of veggies on 3 days out of that fortnight period. The fruit was good, they had plenty of fruit, as was the dairy products, as they were having milk twice a day. Another area of concern was, though, the grain foods. There was not 1 day in the fortnight where they achieved the 2 serves of grain foods. And the snacks, mostly it was fruit and vegetable platters offered, but there were some days where a cake or crackers were offered, which couldn't really be classed as nutritious, but they did pretty well most of the time there. So let's move on to the final slide and have a look at the overall picture. So our overall assessment of this menu then, there was no red meat offered at all, which means that this diet's likely to be low in iron. Now, iron is very important for children's brain development, and if an iron deficiency exists, this could affect them throughout their lives into adulthood. White meat was okay, and vegetarian meals were okay. Iron and vitamin C, we would need to have a look at that a little bit more and make sure that the appropriate fruits and vegetables were being offered. High fat foods were okay, but we could look at removing those altogether. Vegetables, they didn't meet the 1 serve every day, so we'd need to look at some ways of increasing the vegetable intake. Fruit was good, dairy was good. Grain foods was not good. They did not achieve the 2 serves required per day on any day over the fortnight. Now, this is important as it's a source of fibre, so it's important for healthy tummies in the children and to avoid constipation, and also a good source of the vitamin B complex, which is important for our metabolism. So it would be worth looking into increasing those intakes of those foods somehow. The snacks mostly were good as they were fruit, but we could do with cutting out things like the Sayos with jam and the Vegemite sandwiches. Overall, there was a lack of variety. Milk was offered every day, fruit was offered pretty much every day, and we could look at shaking this up a bit and giving the children a bit more variety. So that concludes the menu planning activities. So first off, you looked at essential food groups and serve sizes. You then looked at assessing your recipes. You then looked at renovating your recipes and ensuring that serve size requirements are met. And then finally, we took a 2-week menu and we checked it against our nutrition checklist. I hope you've enjoyed doing these activities, and if you have any comments or suggestions that you'd like to make, please do so on the discussion board. Thank you.